Okay, good. All
Awesome.
right, folks. Welcome. We're having a little tea time, a little chat with Luka Symons here, incredible nutritionist and educator. So, hey, maybe, this is kind of how we started the conversation earlier. It's like just informally. It's like we were like cheers. Like, what's in your mug? What's in your mug? So I'll start with mine because it's a little more basic, and then I'll let you
It's
share.
not it's not basic. There's no comparing. It's good. That's
Yeah,
enough.
for sure.
Yeah.
It was what I was in the mood for. So I've got some. Imagine a hot lemon, but there's actually no lemon in here. It's got camu camu, which is one of the highest sources of botanical vitamin C, whole food versions, all the cofactors and everything in there, plus a little bit of sea buckthorn. So that's kind of where that sourness comes in. I balance that with a little shot of honey and a little dash of ginger just for kind of a spark. Now it kind of sounds like a recipe for like, oh, I feel like I might be under the. I don't actually. I just felt a little chilly, a little cool, and I thought, hey, I'm not feeling anything, but I'm just going to support my immune system anyways. I like the idea of like a hot, lemon drink, so that's what I went with. And then Luka, you got something amazing in your mug too.
I do, but I want to ask you, did you steep it or did you just pour hot water? Is it fresh ginger and then you just let it steep for a bit?
You know what? These are all powders. So freeze dried sea buckthorn,
Yeah.
the dried camu camu powder, ginger powder, then honey, and then I'll do a little bit of just room temperature water, like right out the tap, filtered, of course. And then I do the rest of the mug with hot tea. So there's nutrients in there, or hot water rather. I wouldn't want to scorch the sea buckthorn or the camu with just like direct hot water. So I kind of mix them into a little bit of kind of room tap water, and then the rest with hot, and then it's perfect.
Okay, so PS, that is a low histamine drink. So
Oh,
for histamine folks who are like, oh, I can't have lemon because that's high histamine. Yeah, it can trigger histamine dumping in some. Then just swap out your lemon with that sour note of the camu camu and the sea buckthorn berry. Like, what is not to love there, right?
right. Yeah, totally. So
Now that's okay. I'll talk about what's in mine. So I usually have a long brew going on my stovetop, but I actually had to empty the pot the other day because it was half herbs. Like I'd been adding and building on this brew for probably the last month or so. So today I just have hot water, but I added in my cup, I have cocoa powder or cacao powder, actually, coconut oil, coconut butter. There's some gelatin in there, colostrum, because I am having some liver stuff going on these days and pancreas stuff, and colostrum is awesome for that. I also added, red beet powder and schizandra powder, which are both supportive herbs for the liver. So then I sweetened it with maple syrup, which is a really good sweetener for those who are working with liver stuff. And then a pinch of salt because I like electrolytes and minerals in my extra drink, and hot water. That's it.
wow, cool.
It's a red velvet liver loving latte, we'll call it.
Nice. I think I might have seen a recipe like that come across your social media feed once or twice.
Yeah, it's never the same thing though. And this is the thing where I'm like, oh yeah, like here's a recipe, sure. But I just want people to play with their food.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a really good skill to not be tied to a recipe book, to not be thinking that you can't divert from what is the list of ingredients. I'm missing one, I can't make it. Of course you can make it. Play with it, experiment with it. I think that's one of the ways we can get people into food and connected to food. I think we do such a good job on separating the humans from the nature all the time, right? And I think getting people in the kitchen is actually such a perfect way to actually get you back into nature and playing that role that humans have played for millennia as being a part of that chain. Like, yeah, we're consumers. We are not, I suppose we could be takers, but being a part of the food chain, like consuming things of it, being a part of it, making foods, nourishing our people, is a way that we continue the expression of whatever plant we pulled from the soil, whatever animal we had to butcher to put on our plate. We continue the expression of that energy, and we are just a part of the next stage of what that energy is. Like I think of the bugs too, right? Like I'm listening to this audiobook right now on trees from, I can't remember his name. Peter Volobin, I think is his name. The Secret Life of Trees. It's so cool. And he's talking about the fungi, right? So the mushrooms and the mycelial network, and he's talking about nurse logs and how this whole recycling and continuation is all a part of life. The tree is alive at one point, and the mushroom comes in and starts to degrade the material while it's alive. And at some point, the tree dies, but the tree is still a valid part of the equation because now it provides that substrate for the mycelium to continue to live and now to express their own life and to continue life. So yeah, this is all philosophical to say you're a part of something. Stop trying to think you're separate from it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many thoughts came up as you were talking about that. Maybe the most recent one was I came across an article I actually shared on Facebook, how pine beetle might not be so bad. Like pine beetle, we've kind of vilified it. It's killing the forests. Yeah. But of course, it's nature, which is intelligent, and it's just a part of the life cycle. And the guy who shared the article, we talked about a study where in Waterton, they had this issue with the pine beetle and they decided to do something about it. But, inside the park, they just left it as is because it's a national park and, they didn't want to mess with things there. That's kind of the rules of that area. But then just on the other side of it, there's this argument of, well, the forest is just going to die. We better come in, let's harvest the logs, and so they clear cut the whole thing and then they replanted. And so you can actually see side by side, kind of the human intervention and the non-human intervention, just letting nature be. And of course, on the Waterton National Park side, it's now like this brimming kind of, diverse ecosystem where there's spruce and Douglas fir and, some pine and lots of other shrubbery and plants and everything. It's just flourishing. And then where they clear cut and of course, replanted with more pine monoculture. It is that and it is a monoculture and it's not thriving nearly as much. So
yeah, why? When did we start thinking we knew better?
Right.
And I mean, I feel like I'm poo-pooing and I'm like trying to think that I'm better than the people who think that they're better than nature. Like, I don't mean to put that energy in there. I'm sure it's in there, but it's like, you assholes, back off and let nature do her thing. And instead of thinking like, how can you ignore the fact that humans have been a part of it? And nature will continue whether or not we're part of the equation. If we try too hard to try to be in charge of it, nature's going to go out of my way, jerk. And it's going to get rid of us if we're not careful. So I don't know. I want us to, I don't know.
There's an intelligence, within nature. And I think we just need to align with it. And, so this also speaks to that point you're talking about in terms of like connecting people to their food in the kitchen, right? If we can connect to that nature of whatever we are consuming. A friend of mine, he was just over on the weekend visiting from out of town, and he was talking about the importance of he's reincorporating this idea of like saying grace, like his own version of that before a meal, and he had a very kind of nice, beautiful philosophical way of saying it, but also bringing in some science in terms of like like if you're not honoring the life and the history, and if you're not like bringing that into the moment as you consume your cup, you're not getting as deeply nourished. And then this is a way to kind of align with nature. And as you said, whether it's the food on our plate or the herbs in our tea, I've been thinking about this idea all summer as we're taking people out to the forest and we're showing them how to, identify and harvest and process all these different wild foods and herbs. And of course, mushrooms comes up a lot. And, I always say to people like, hey, we're out here, we're getting benefit just being, out in the forest, engaging and interacting with these herbs, like this concept of forest bathing, right? And that's kind of very well known from a scientific standpoint. Plus, gosh, like we all know that, we all experience that. And so what I was trying to impart this idea of is so when you wild harvest that, be it a mushroom, be it Labrador tea, be it pine, you bring that home to your kitchen, now you make a tea, like that's internal forest bathing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you not, like, you're bringing the forest to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you are. Oh, that's beautiful.
and it's a reciprocal relationship, like we can nourish that while nourishing ourselves, which then inspires us to get out again into nature. And if we can align with nature in all these ways, suddenly, I think our collective intelligence, our own unique personal intelligence will begin to align with nature in issues like, what do we do with pine beetle, right? If we're more in tune, we're going to be more in tune with how nature wants to unfold, versus, right? Oh, I think I know what to do.
Yeah. And it's, even talking about like recently there were the floods in BC, right? And there's some stories coming out too of like my sister's a forester and talking about, oh yeah, well, duh, there were floods. Like we have done a poor job of actually working with forests. And there's a traditional indigenous knowledge of how to care for forests and how to be caretakers, not like they're in charge of the forest, but they are caretakers of the forest and have a long tradition in many different societies that are indigenous to the area, and that their ways have been ignored for such a long time. And here then the land now then brings on complete and utter chaos due to our intervention, thinking that we know better. And I wonder if, thinking about this, like, is science, like, because sometimes I want to be like, oh, why do we need science? Why do we have to have a microscope tell us what we inherently feel and know, and if we tap into it, can know, right? Like we know the forest bathing, there's the science to show that forest bathing brings benefits. Do you know how else you can know? Go to goddamn forest and pay attention. Like why do I need a scientist to tell me? And then I think, we're so short-sighting ourselves by putting all of our beliefs, and I'm not saying science is wrong. I'm not saying science is not needed, because I have another point to make, but that it's so interesting to me that we need to rely on scientists before we'll rely on something. Now, science can have some really great benefits because it can go deeper and look closer than we can on just an intuitive sense or on a sort of day-to-day basis. So I get it. What if science is coming out of our separation from nature?
Right.
What if science is that invitation back in to get back into nature? And this whole hooking everything on science these days is just an indicator that we are again separating from nature, and that relying on science and looking and trusting the science, which can't be released for many years. Let's not talk about it. Anyway, I know this can light fires in both camps, and it's not my intention, because I don't want to make enemies, and I'm not here to divide, and I'm not here to conquer or do anything. What if science is actually part of the emphasis of science is to actually help bring us back to being a part of nature?
Cool. Yeah.
Why? Take the pressure off. God. Anyway.
Yeah. Totally. And, it's something that I've been exploring for a long time in all the different aspects of any pursuit or passion or interest that I've had, be it food and nutrition, be it music, public speaking, whatever. I think the ultimate challenge for us as humans is to kind of, merge those minds. If we take, the brain as the symbol of like intellectualism and science, and if we take the heart or the gut, you choose, maybe it's the gut, and we kind of harmonize in the middle at the heart of that, more that kind of, free flowing, intuitive type of process. And, any field I've gotten into, it's always about emerging and harmonizing and embracing both ways of knowing and being and thinking.
Yeah. Well, so when you first graduate from places like Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, which is what I did, I was like, oh my gosh, this food is so great because of this nutrient, this. So then I start memorizing all of these facts, and I get so far into, oh, thank God for nitrates, because I need to vasodilate because I don't want to have clots and, all these things. Like, what if beets are awesome? End of story. They grew in my garden. I ate them. Thanks. Bye. Like, why does it have to be so complicated and so deep? And I think when you first jump into the science and understand some of the intricacies of how things work, you have that appreciation, right, for how connected stuff is. And the further you get away from that, and the more you think about that integration, you realize it's all the same thing. And you had all the answers you needed 40 years ago, actually. If you had to go deep to get that appreciation for how everything is interconnected. But the deeper I get into the work I'm doing, the more I realize it's just about showing up, and it's just about listening, and it's just about bless it and get on with it. Really.
Right. Yeah. Hence tea time. And really just
Yeah, I can get it. Oh, dregs.
Right.
It's so good. So yeah, the hot chocolate clock is how I usually bring it up with my clients. Or like I was there, I had one gal, she's like, well, I run my own business and I'm too busy and I can't take breaks and I'm just like this. And I said, do you remember the smoke break from the 80s and 90s? She's like, oh yeah, I took smoke breaks. Like, what if you did a tea break? Because she doesn't smoke anymore. Good work. What if you take a tea break?
Yeah.
Well, if I take a tea break, I have to have tea at work. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And she's like, oh, I realize how silly that sounds. I was like, it's not silly. That has to be a part of the equation. And the fact that we just think it magically appears is ridiculous. So let that go. Yeah, you have to buy some. Okay, I have a kettle at work. I'm like, excellent. Why don't you put a little dinger at 10:30 every morning and you have to go outside?
Yeah, amazing, right? You think about the benefits, like everything we talked about. So depending on the herb that you choose, and when I wrote the elixir book, I kind of kept this phrase, there's an elixir for that, and we can transpose that to there's a herb for that, there's a tea for that.
Yeah.
So you can kind of have a little like selection of like, oh, 10:30, like what do I feel like? I've already started my day, I'm into my work. Maybe you're starting to feel a little like tired or you're like, okay, the next hour and a half, I got to focus, I got to push. You can like choose your tea based upon that. And chatting with Yarrow Willard the other day, he's sets his day up into like kind of 90-minute chunks. He says that's the maximum that we can be like so focused, so productive. So to actually schedule in that break, okay, start my day at 9, 10:30, I'm taking a break, state shift, I'm getting outside, right? The benefit, yes, there's forest bathing, but we can access that bathing experience in any environment. And really it's just about being present, feeling into that environment. What is it feeding back to us? And if you're in a concrete jungle, there's going to be some sort of nature plant, around. If not, it's the sky, it's the clouds, it's that fresh air. And then it's that moment with the tea and connecting to, where it grew in that internal forest bathing.
Yeah, my friend Claire. So Claire Cummings, she's lovely.
Yeah.
One of my favorite humans. So she and I did a class last year about how to navigate in these wild times, I think we called it. So she had such a great idea. She said, okay, before you sit down to have a meal or a snack or a cup of tea or something, think of 5. Well, it was a combination of both she and I together, but like think of 5 things. And one of them is how you are part of what's about to hit your lips before it even hits your lips. So for example, like, oh, this smells so good. Oh, it smells like chocolate. Oh, there's somebody who would have had to pick that chocolate. There's somebody who would have had to ferment those beans. I wonder what they look like. And I wonder what they're doing today. And just thinking about the people who are involved in getting what is at your table together and how you are now going to be a part of that collection of people. And just that simple act of thinking of how that food came to your table, the people involved and how you're a part of it can actually turn on the rest or digest mode. And if you want to get into the science, that's how you better digest. The better you can digest, the less stress on your liver, the less stress on your immune system, the less stress on your whole body, the less you'll be driving that leaky gut. Like improve how you digest by paying attention. And put yourself in that line of people. It was so great. It was such a simple little thing that I'm like, I think of it every day now. It's just such a great little thing of, some people, like you say, would say grace, right? So thank you. Like we say one at our house, because it's what I said growing up in French. Thank you for the food at our table. And we thank the people who helped get it here. And we hope that those who are missing food today will soon be able to partake in a meal. Like it's kind of that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And while it's rote and we say it every day, how does not even putting that intention out there or lighting a candle? Some families like candles, some families or some people will sit, turn on a TV, I guess, or like if you have your routine, that becomes a part of how that meal comes into your body. So if part of that routine can be about you being present for the meal, whatever that looks like, or whatever it takes from you, you're going to get bonus points.
Awesome. Yeah. And we love the gratitude piece getting thrown in there too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's those little things that actually improve a whole bunch of stuff. And when you start changing your relationship to food and seeing it as a point of not just like, I need my macronutrients and I need to make sure that I'm hitting those very narrow lines. I'm not allowed to stray off of this balance beam of foods. Like the minute you can start to let some of that go and see your part in it, the more you start to shed so much that I think can feel too rigid and contribute to not being awesome. And I don't know how else to say that. It feels like I'm being judgy, but like I stray further and further away from restrictive diets with people only because of that. Because I think food's not the enemy there. Let's actually put you back into the equation of being a human and what your role is in the food chain, in the natural world, your part that you play in supporting the food practices that you honor with your dollar and the way that you make that food on your table. I'm not, some people are like, oh, that's it. I can't do that every meal. Okay, so don't do it every meal because that can feel too overwhelming. It took me 6-7 years to be able to do it at every meal. Start with one. That's all. Just do one and see how different you feel. And if you think I'm full of something, then let it go after once and then go back to your ways. And then call me when you're not feeling well again.
Cool. Well, I want to shift it up here. It's been a fun, kind of meandering conversation. We've touched upon all kinds of stuff. You and I were chatting just before we got started, and there was one topic we were going to bring in here, and I think it's as kind of huge and powerful as everything we've been talking about. And it's almost, it falls in line with that, like a do nothing and get all the benefit. And what I'm what I'm talking about is sleep.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, the power of sleep, isn't it? It's unbelievable. And maybe we can even tie in a little thread of like tea time, rituals for sleep. We've talked about kind of that in the middle of our day or at meals. Let's dive into sleep.
Yeah. So I was thinking of it today, like sleep is like a mini hibernation. It is a tea break. Like it's a break that you need. And we need it for so many things. I think of kids, like my husband's a teacher. So he'll often talk about, you need the kids to sleep on it for it to get into their person. Right. So that the next day when they come back to school, whatever we shared on Tuesday is integrated into Tuesday night in the brain during sleep. And Wednesday morning, when you bring it up, now it's become a part of them. So you need that overnight for things to integrate. That's why teachers will go over, do the review on Tuesday and give the test on Wednesday kind of thing. Like there's a method to the madness. But sleep is I think of it too as the great balancer. I really think nature, and we are part of nature, is always about the balancing. And it's a constant balancing act. There's never a stasis like this where it stays. Never. It's always and what sleep does, sleep really helps to rebalance all of the things. You need sleep to have balanced weight. So if you struggle with weight gain, then you want to work on sleep because that's where some of that work can happen. If you struggle with blood sugar regulation, in order to balance your blood sugars on Wednesday, you have to sleep well Tuesday night. Some of that work, prep, happens in the nighttime for the next day. In order to balance your hormones from the crapshoot that you went through on Wednesday, you got to sleep well on Wednesday night, because that resets all of your hormones because of that main hormone that's produced if you're sleeping well, melatonin. Melatonin, I think of it as like the gentle whack-a-mole with all your other hormones. Hey, testosterone, get back down there. And progesterone, come on, you can do it. Get up there. Like trying to bring up the ones that are a bit lagging. And melatonin does that job only if you're actually properly sleeping and making melatonin yourself. Taking melatonin supplementally doesn't do that job. Of course not. It's not made by you. So there's so much more that comes into play when you make it yourself that can work so much better. I'm not saying taking melatonin as a supplement is not a good idea. Sure, if it can help you get a bit restful sleep to get started, good, but address why sleep is so troublesome in the first place. But sleep too, like your brain, you have an immune system in your brain and it clears everything out during sleep. You have Sleep is the great forgiver. Like, it's cleanup from detoxification during the day. So your liver comes in and does cleanup on aisle 5 and gets everything ready for tomorrow, right? So sleep is one of those, like you say, do nothing, but it's also a super loaded thing. Right. Because I think of young parents. You've been working and looking after kids, and it's 9:30, everyone's in bed, and you're like, I'm just going to scroll on the internet because it's me time. And your eyes are propped open with, toothpicks because you're so exhausted and wired. And you're like, I don't care. It's my time. Like, I was totally that person till 1 or 2 in the morning because it was me time. I desperately needed it, but couldn't find it anywhere else. My sleep really struggled. And as a result, actually, my blood sugar and weight ballooned. It's okay. Yay, because the body's going to let you know something's up. Or, sleep can be hard if you've got like deep insomnia that's been going on for a long time. It's so frustrating. So to tell somebody you just need to work at sleep. Oh, thanks. I feel better. No, you don't. So, but it is one of those, if you can work at making it work for you, where you can figure out why it's not happening, I think that's actually a really lovely spot. If there's anything, like, it's a skill you can work at. And it's a skill that, like with my clients, I actually say, okay, let's take a season. What do you want to work on this season? And right now I'm super pushing with clients. Let's work on sleep. It's hibernation season. It's actually the perfect time to work on sleep.
Yeah, no, totally. I was just going to say that, like, going into winter, like you say, hibernation. This is the time. What a great thing, and what a long we've come. I don't know your experience, kind of in the early days of like, the health food movement. I was around a lot of people and read a lot of books and listened to a lot of kind of, quote unquote experts, where it was all about, it was almost this macho thing, like, well, I only need to sleep 3 hours a night or 4 hours a night, and it was kind of like this badge of honor. And I've noticed a huge, paradigm shift around that, where, that's gone. Like, people are like, valuing sleep and everything that you shared. We just know how essential and how beneficial it is. So great for those of us that all it is just a mindset shift to go like, you know what, sleep is the most amazing thing. I'm going to make sure I, hit the pillow and really just like soak that up. However, as you mentioned, it's not so easy for some, right? Maybe it's not just a mindset shift. There's something deeper that is preventing them from getting that deep night's sleep. And I know it's probably a very deep topic. You help people through this all the time, but what might be some insights into like starting places where if someone is struggling with sleep, and it's just as simple as like, well, sleep's great, it'd be great if I could get it. It's not there.
Yeah, it's so convoluted, right? There's falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up, peeing through the night, rested when you wake up. Like, those are 5 I can think of just off the top of my head. If you can't fall asleep because you get into bed and your eyes are like this and you're like, I really want to sleep. I'm so tired. I am so tired. It can be one of a couple of things. So you need specific, this is where the science is very fascinating. You need specific neurotransmitters to get to sleep. There are different neurotransmitters that get you to sleep, and there are different neurotransmitters that promote wakefulness. So if you have too much that promote wakefulness, you're going to have a hard time falling asleep, possibly. One of those is histamine. Histamine actually triggers you to stay awake. So for some people who can't fall asleep, it can be that there's just so much histamine in their system that they are having troubles clearing. So you got to figure out if that's you. And for sure, I can help with that. So another way is that you're having a difficult time building neurotransmitters because you can't get the building blocks for it. Building blocks are protein. Protein relies on really strong stomach digestive function. And as you hit the age of 40, our ability to digest protein starts to wane. So as we get older, we see that, it's common. Oh, okay, so this is normal. It's common. It's not necessarily normal, though, I'm going to say. But maybe you're having a hard time digesting and you can't get the protein you need to make that neurotransmitter to fall asleep. Or you can't make melatonin. So if you can't make melatonin, there can be a few different breaks in the wheel somewhere there. Melatonin is the hormone that gets you to sleep. And it's the hormone that your pituitary gland, which is in the center, no, not pituitary, pineal gland. It looks like a pine cone. It's in the center of your head, this way, this way, this way. Like, it's like the size of a grain of rice. It's teeny tiny. And you're an evergreen because you have a pine cone in your head. I love that. Right? But that's the hormone making machine to make melatonin. It's the organ that makes melatonin. But you need certain ingredients to make melatonin. Well, how well is your pineal gland functioning? Can you make melatonin? Do you have the ingredients to make melatonin? Do you have the nutrients it takes to change tryptophan into serotonin into melatonin? There's like a chain of command that has to happen. Is your pineal gland super full of crystals? Or, well, calcification, actually. If you've got a lot of fluoride in your regimen, you actually slow down the pineal gland function. It's only the size of a grain of rice. Like, it's not going to take tons to impact it. We're talking about fluoridation of water, right? In Calgary, which drives me bananas. Like, how come we're not allowed to talk about pineal gland function and how it's going to impact everybody's sleep? How come no one's talking about that? It has the potential of calcifying your pineal gland. So now you're not going to be able to fall asleep. Oh, but the 1% we could maybe get into our teeth is important though. Use toothpaste that has that if you want that. You don't need it. Anyway, that's another discussion. It's me so mad. Follow the science. Oh, your science or all of the science or just handpicked science? God damn. Anyway, sorry. I'm not doing a very good job of keeping it in check. Anyway, so that can be one of the issues, right? Is your pineal gland working well? Can you get the nutrients you need to make that hormone? So that's the falling asleep part. Is your circadian rhythm off? So we all have this internal 24-hour clock going on. And the way that humans would have had this, like every day you have to recalibrate that 24-hour clock. Nobody has a true 24-hour clock. And our light levels change over the course of the year. One of the reasons there is a tendency to sleep more at this time of year is because there's less light. As the light diminishes, so we should start producing melatonin. We happen to have a lot of things in our life that trigger artificial production of the keep you awake things in the body because of the light from our screens, our ring lights, our phones, our computers, like all those things. So how's that working for you? So it bears looking into what's going on when falling asleep is tricky. Waking up in the middle of the night can be, if you're the person that wakes up and goes, did I pick up the dry cleaning? My mother-in-law's coming on Friday. Oh, Jimmy has his science thing due on Thursday. I forgot to get ketchup at the grocery store yesterday. God, is there, if you're making all the list of things, often that could be one of two things, a liver thing or a blood sugar balance thing. So then you need to work on blood sugar balancing. If you are waking up to pee a lot, then there's a really good indication. We make a hormone, I can't remember what it's called, but you make a hormone as you fall asleep, and only when you get to deep sleep, that shuts down the ability or shuts down the request to go pee. So for people who are getting up to pee a lot in the night, it's an indicator that you're not quite reaching the deep sleep. That is that restorative sleep that does so much of that important work that we're supposed to reach for in the nighttime. So yeah, stopping drinking before you go to bed can be one of the helpers, but that's not going to do all of the job. You need to do some deep work to see what's at play and why are you not getting to that deep sleep that will trigger the production of that hormone. And that's another hormonal imbalance. So yeah, there's just so many things. If you're waking up and you're still super tired, then your sleep was not restful. Why? Are you having a hard time making cortisol, which you're supposed to first thing in the morning? Okay, how's the health of your adrenals? Like, there's just so many little pieces, right? And that's the thing. When sleep is troublesome, it's not just a pop of melatonin and we'll get it fixed. It's your body is sending some cues. Let's read and do some detective work to figure out what's happening at the root. But there's some really awesome common things and fairly straightforward, easy things that everybody can benefit from when it comes to, what can I do? I can't sleep. Like, what do I do? What do you guys do at the Light Cellar when somebody comes in and says, oh my gosh, I can't sleep? How do you guys handle it?
Well, I mean, first is, asking those types of questions, right? We got to establish a baseline, where is somebody? And is it a matter of, like you said, falling asleep, staying asleep? And then also the next question, wherever that leads is, well, what have you tried? Because there's no point like, well, just try this, well, I've tried that. So what have you tried, and what are you thinking about next? Like, what have you heard? And so we usually try and pull on those strings just to customize it as much as possible. The one thing I try and tell the staff is, you want to ask more questions than, give answers in that sense, just to really get to know who you're talking to. But sometimes it is as simple as like, if it is adrenals and it's just like, chilling out, like tea time with adaptogens or with what are called the nervines, that really kind of help calm the nervous system. We get a lot of people coming in for like the dark tart cherry juice. You did mention about how kind of supplemental melatonin, not always the answer, but sometimes just that little bit can be helpful. So yeah, it's really a customization. And
tart cherries have melatonin naturally occurring in them.
Yeah.
So do pistachios.
Oh, I didn't know about pistachios.
Yeah, pistachios and raspberries. Oh, there's a few because and you need manganese as well. So coconut is really great for that. And yeah, there's such interesting nutrients you need to make melatonin that you can nourish during the day as well. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. The super obvious ones that you'll find on any 10 quick tips to get you to sleep like a baby lists, right? Because there's 75 million of those out there. I'm sure I have one somewhere. Is turn off your electronics an hour before bed.
Yeah.
That can be a hard thing because we usually wind down with our me time, which can involve social media. So then can you take up a craft? Can you take up some books? Can you write letters or gratitude cards or something that gets you out of your head and into your heart, right? In order to calm whatever's contributing to this sort of energy so you can get into the heart and get a little bit calmer. So for sure, things like gratitude cards, like my husband does, he doesn't do them anymore, but because now he just does it in his mind, but he was doing 3 thank you cards a week at the end of the week for his students in his class or the parents or staff members or people in his circles, where he'd write thank you cards, 3 of them at the end of every week as a way to, okay, what was this week about? And he's going to concentrate on that and go into the weekend with that. And now he actually just does that on his bike ride home on Friday. Now he's like, who would my 3 thank you cards be to this week? So even just that act of something where you go back and, and writing, the act of writing is just a way to get you into your hands. Obviously, I've taken up cross stitching lately at my house. I am not very good. I don't care. It's super fun. And it's a really nice, super meditative way to get into the evening until you realize you made a mistake and then you get mad. And sometimes that doesn't help.
Right. So another one in terms of circadian rhythm, you talked about light, obviously, but I'm a big believer in grounding as well. So, either literally outside, feet on the earth or snow, whatever happens to be on the ground. Baths, showers are a good way to do that too. And then also grounding sheets. That's something that I've got on my bed that I love that.
Yeah. And they're so great. So grounding sheet, when you plug it in, it goes into how there's 3 prongs in the plugs. So it just has that one prong for there's usually 3 prongs, so you can't get it in the wrong prong, but the only active prong is the grounding prong. And that's actually connecting you to the ground. Yeah. From the which is so great. Like, what a great idea. I have a friend, she did that. And she said she slept like a baby for the first time in 10 years.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. Grounding sheets are awesome for that. And then there's, so speaking about light, I had one gal, she came to the sleep class that I ran last year. And she said, she's worked for, like 5, 6, 7 years, maybe, on putting in good things in place to help support whatever health conditions she had on the go. One of the things, because she had some autoimmune stuff on the go, one of the things, she still wasn't sleeping well. And it was one simple thing of getting out in the sun in her first hour of being up in the morning that shifted everything for her. And finally, she was able to sleep for the first time in 10 years. So there's something about getting into the sun in that first hour of the day. And it's your first hour of being up. Like, if the sun is just coming over the horizon, that is good enough. It can be full on sun. It can be overcast. It can be snowing, raining, doesn't matter. But as long as there's a little bit of light on the horizon in your first hour of getting up, getting into the sun for 10 minutes, 15, if you can take it. And if you're wearing glasses, taking your glasses off, because there's a coating on the glasses that prevents the type of light that triggers whatever needs to happen in your eyeballs. So taking your glasses off if you can. It's the light that hits these cells in your eyeballs that then trigger to the pineal gland to stop making melatonin, clean up, and get ready for the day.
Mhm.
So in that light hitting and the mechanism that's triggered, you're decalcifying the pineal gland in that moment. And you're getting things set up so that as the light starts to recede in the rest of the day, now you'll be able to start making melatonin accordingly. So just the reset, you're resetting your internal clock with the sunlight on your eyeballs, but you have to take your glasses off. You can't, and I'm not saying sit out there and like stare at the sun, but just indirect light is what does it. 10 minutes, be great. If 15, 20, sure. Bring breakfast outside, you're going to win.
Or bring your tea break.
What a nice way to start the day. A little elixir action. Oh yeah. And I have clients who are, lots of autoimmune, can't even walk around the block. They just go sit on the back deck or the front deck, wherever it is, or the front porch, or they go down to the end of the block and come back. Good. Yeah. That's all it takes. And that simple act is the biochemistry of how we were intertwined with nature. Yeah. This is the thing. Humans evolved as part of nature. The more we move forward in this new era, the more we're getting separated from nature, the more we're seeing the repercussions of what that looks like as our bodies try to figure it out and adjust. You can wait 18 generations to reach the point where we won't need the sun to trigger our circadian rhythm if you want, or you can just tap into one generation ago, head outside and just be in the sun. Thanks. Oh, it's way easier. Bye.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's another rabbit hole I won't bring up or go down right now, but I'm really concerned about this idea of the metaverse. I mean, we're already halfway there. People are immersed already. I mean, even as we are in a kind of a virtual world, virtual interaction. I know, I get it. It's got pros and cons, but this idea of, I don't even want to go there, the metaverse, that we're going to lose a ton of humanity to that virtual world. But
but what if this is kind of like a mycelial network? Right? Like how much of online stuff is mimicking some of the things we see in nature. So we can wait 20 generations to try to adapt to how we're trying to shove so much shifting on humans right now. Or you can check out and like continue on. I hope anyway. Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure this morning, having a little tea break, a tea time with you, Luka. I love where our conversation went, and this conversation of sleep is so deep. As you shared, you've provided an incredible window into that world. Some good insights, some threads for people to follow, maybe some quick fixes for others. But of course, this is something that you actually offer like deep dive courses on, as well as, I'm sure, one-on-one if somebody wanted that. But I know these courses are a great way for people to access your mind, your brain, to help get them back on track. And tell us about the sleep courses that you offer.
Yeah. So first things first, for people who are like, I'm not buying a course. Good. I have an online article that'll give you tons of info, and I'll put it in the comments after we wrap up on Facebook so that people can find it easily. And in there, you'll get a to-do list. So start there. And that's a really great spot to start. I do have a sleep class. I'm just going to launch it this week. It's ready now. I just have to build a spot for you to go, I'm on it, to click on. That's the only piece that's left. So that's going to go live this Friday. And in that class, it's on demand. So it's on there whenever you need it. And I'll be honest, this class, more than any other class I've done, I built something new into it. There's a worksheet and there's recipes and food lists and things to think about, but there's also a habit stacking worksheet. And that is the practical piece of what the free article does. It's got all of those different pieces, and it tells you like, okay, if this is what you want to change, here's a solution to it, and a column for you to put in order. What are the pieces you want to work on? And it's the kind of thing, like I've been sharing it with clients for the last year, where when sleep is the first piece that they come to me with, they're like, I need to sleep better. Then we work on that habit stacking worksheet, and they take like 4, 5, 6 months to put some of those pieces in place. So it's a slow moving thing. And I think that's one of the beauties of being humans. We're not fast movers. When it comes to biochemistry and the metabolism and like how our body works, small, steady shifts are way better than massive, huge shifts and swerves, because that big shift is not sustainable. So the things I propose in that worksheet are all part of that sleep class. So that's going to go live on Friday, and that's work for like 6 months. So it's the kind of thing where if this new season that's coming has you wanting to work on one thing, I can't think of a better thing than working on sleep because of its impact on every little thing. One of my clients took it and she said, I think this is the next class after the free gut class. Everybody should take this sleep class because of how much it impacts everything and how you start to really understand that we are one whole unit, all connected. So sleep, if there's nothing else to work on, sleep will always be a good thing to work on.
Yeah, right on. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for chatting. Where can people find your work for the free article, for checking more about the course? Let us know.
Yeah. So LukaSymons.com, LukaSymons. So it's just my name at .com. I will put it in the comments below after we're done. And I'll put that free article link there too. And when the class is live, I'm going to announce it in my newsletter. And it'll be on social media as well. There'll be links all through there as well when that's ready to go.
Okay, right on. Okay, well, thanks for sharing a little tea time, a little tea break and a chat. Yeah.
I love these tea chats. Yeah. Please continue doing them with people. It's fun to hear what people are up to.
Yeah, cool. No, it's good. All right. Well, I'll let you get back into your day and thanks again, Luka.
Okay, thanks, Malcolm. Bye.
All right, bye.